So, you're thinking of moving to Beaufort, South Carolina. In today's video, I'm going to tell you the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, the yin and the yang of Beaufort, South Carolina. So let's go ahead and get started. Do you want to know everything there is to know about the South Carolina Lowcountry? Whether it's Bluffton, Beaufort, Hilton Head Island, or Jasper County? Then subscribe below and tap that bell for notifications so you'll be the first to know about the current market in the South Carolina Lowcountry. My name is David Simcox, host of Lowcountry Lifestyles and a local realtor. I get calls and emails every day from people just like you and you and you and you looking to make their move to the South Carolina Lowcountry, and I absolutely love it. So whether you're making your move in 3 days or 3 months, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, or book a Zoom call, all in the description below, so I can help you find your Lowcountry lifestyle. Today we are talking about Beaufort, South Carolina, and the pros and the cons, the good and the bad, the yin and the yang. And when I talk about Beaufort, I'm not just talking about Beaufort, I'm talking about all of the surrounding areas, the Sea Islands. That includes areas like Port Royal, Burton, Ladies Island, St. Helena Island, Data Island, Fripp Island, Harbor Island, Shell Point, Laurel Bay, Paris Island, Sheldon, Seabrook, Dale, Labico, Gardens Corner, and Yemansee. And when you include all those areas together, you're talking about an area of about 70,000 people. Although the little area of Beaufort is probably closer to about 13 to 15,000 people. And Beaufort has been around for a long time. It is actually the second oldest city in all of South Carolina, just behind Charleston. It was originally founded in 1711. And there have been explorers coming and going from the Beaufort area since the 1500s. So this area really does date back all the way back to the founding of the United States, and probably before that if you really look at it correctly. So let's go ahead and get started with some of the pros. So number one pro, in my opinion, is the rich history and the quaint historic look of the Beaufort area. So when you're driving through Beaufort, you're going to notice all these amazing historic mansions that have these great front porches and this great historic architecture. And it's absolutely gorgeous to drive through downtown Beaufort and see these historic mansions. So that is definitely one of the pros. Another one of the pros is I believe there's less traffic in Beaufort than some of the surrounding areas. So a lot of people that are comparing Beaufort to other areas around, they're comparing to Bluffton and Hilton Head and Savannah and even Charleston. And Beaufort is definitely quieter and has less traffic and congestion than the surrounding areas. So that's definitely a pro. A lot of people also feel like Beaufort is more water oriented, meaning there are more things to do on the water, and the waterways are all throughout Beaufort, and this is evident in the annual Beaufort Water Festival. But boating and fishing and activities on the water are very, very prevalent in the Beaufort area. And the waterways and the fishing and boating have always had a very big part of Beaufort history. So water oriented is a huge bonus. All right, so we have to get to at least one negative, right? There are tons and tons of positives, and I had a hard time coming up with negatives, but okay, I'm going to. One is the jet noise, and please don't shoot me for saying that because I am very much a patriotic person, but you've got the Beaufort Air Station there, and sometimes you will hear the F-35s flying over, and the locals just say, hey, that's the sound of freedom. So I'm not against it. I love seeing the jets fly over. I love seeing the F-35s, and I think it's awesome. But in some neighborhoods, you actually have to sign a piece of paper saying that you're aware that there could be some loud jet noise and that you're in the path of these jet flyovers. So, you know, you get used to it, and it is the sound of freedom, but some people will say the jet noise might be a negative. Okay, let's get back to some positives. There are some amazing restaurants. Along Bay Street, there are a bunch of restaurants. Also out on the water, there are some amazing restaurants. You've got some great Lowcountry cooking, and you've got some amazing Gullah cuisine and some great seafood restaurants. And you can see that in some of my other videos where I talk more about the restaurants. Also, along with the whole historic vibe going on in Beaufort, you've got horse and buggy rides. And so I would say that is definitely a pro. That's a great way to see the town and to see the scenery, is to get in the back of a horse and buggy and go for a slow ride down memory lane. You'll definitely feel like you're transported back into a slower time and place when you're riding in the back of a horse and buggy. And I can't think of anything more romantic than riding around a historic downtown area in the back of a horse and buggy. So again, Beaufort is just oozing with southern charm and historic mystique. There are tons of walking trails throughout Beaufort, and that is another one of the pros. And another one of the pros of living in Beaufort is there are 4 seasons. Although the majority of the year you're gonna have this amazing weather. You've got a very mild winter, you've got a beautiful spring and a beautiful fall, and the summer is, let's face it, it's a little bit hot, it's a little bit muggy, but you do get to experience a true 4-season climate, which I think is great. Another one of the pros of living in Beaufort is you get to experience some of the Gullah and Gullah Geechee history. And if you don't know what that is, you should do a little bit of research on it, because it is absolutely fascinating. So Gullah people are the descendants of the former enslaved folks here in South Carolina, and they have done an amazing job of preserving their heritage and preserving their history and preserving all different aspects of their culture, including their language and their cuisine, and so they really have a rich history. And there are different areas that you can go around and tour here in Beaufort and experience some of that Gullah culture and some of that Gullah food, and even some of the churches and things of that nature that have been preserved throughout history since times of the Civil War and even before that. So the Gullah and Gullah Geechee history is, in my opinion, one of the greatest things that Beaufort has to offer. Antiques. There are some great antique shopping opportunities in Beaufort all along Bay Street. If you love to shop for and look at some of the greatest things that we've preserved throughout history, there are some great antique stores all in downtown Beaufort and surrounding that area down there in the historic district. All right, so let's get down to another negative, if you want to look at it this way. So a negative, or it could be seen as a positive, is there are mostly locals, to where in the surrounding areas like Bluffton and Hilton Head, the vast majority of people living in Bluffton and Hilton Head are actually from other areas. They're coming in from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Ohio, California. But in Beaufort, I feel like there are a lot more locals that have been there for multiple generations. And when you get to know some of the families, they go back hundreds and hundreds of years, which I think is really neat. And so some people coming in from outside areas might feel like it's hard to fit in when so many people are locals and families that have known each other for generations and generations. But actually, the fact that there are a lot of locals that have been here for a long time, that's actually a good thing, because one of the things that's bred into the locals is a local Southern charm, and I guess you would say Southern hospitality. So they make you feel welcome, even if you are coming from New York or California or somewhere like that. The locals will show you that absolutely incredible Southern charm and hospitality, and they'll make you feel warm. But so either way you want to look at that, that could be a positive or a negative. Another positive is Habersham. Habersham is off away from downtown Beaufort a little bit, but it's its own kind of neighborhood. It's live, work, play, everything within its own vicinity. And it's kind of a form of what I'd call like new urbanism. And it's got some really amazing architecture. It is a Southern living inspired area, and hopefully we can overlay some of that video of Habersham so you can see what that looks like. But I think Habersham is just a true gem right on the outskirts of Beaufort. Okay, so let's go to a negative. Flood zones. So a lot of Beaufort is in a flood zone. And does that mean it's going to flood? Absolutely not. So don't get too worried thinking that you're going to move to Beaufort and your house is going to flood and your property is going to flood. It just means that over a 100-year period, there is a higher likelihood that the property could experience flooding. You know, it might be every 70 years or 80 years, but some of the properties are going to require some type of flood coverage or flood policy insurance. Don't freak out over this. It is a minor fee. You might only be talking about an extra $500 a year or $1,000 a year on your insurance policy, and that will cover you from most of the flood damages. And you know what? Even if you don't live in a flood zone, I highly recommend carrying some kind of flood policy regardless, okay? So flood zones are definitely a negative in Beaufort. Let's go on to another positive, all right? So front porches and back porches. So Beaufort, if you drive around Beaufort, you're going to notice some of the most amazing, grand front porches that span the entire width of the house. And people love to sit on the front porches. They love to sit in their rocking chairs. And I think that, again, just exudes that Southern charm. And a lot of the houses, even on the back of the house, have these beautiful private screen porches. And that's just because we have such amazing weather here in the South Carolina Lowcountry that you want to spend as much time outside as you can. So again, front porches and screen back porches are one of the positives of living in Beaufort, South Carolina. All right, so we have to get back to another negative. I'm sorry. Another negative of living in Beaufort is bugs. And, you know, not too many of them, but there are times of the year where you're going to experience some what we call no-see-ums. They're little tiny bugs that you can't see, but they kind of bug you, and that's why they call no-see-ums. And so they come and they go just a little bit during certain seasons of the year, but bugs and a few mosquitoes here and there could be seen as a negative. All right, back to some positives. There are some amazing festivals in Beaufort, and probably the most well-known festival is the Water Festival. And it's a week-long festival, and every day they have different events like singing contests and boating events, and just great opportunities to get together and see your neighbors and connect with everybody in the community. And there are other festivals. There are seafood festivals and all kinds of festivals throughout the year. Again, the Water Festival is the biggest, but there are other ones, and the festivals are a huge reason that people love living in Beaufort, South Carolina. All right, back to another negative. Alligators. Yes, there are some alligators around, and you know, it's part of the ecosystem. It's part of the wildlife, and I actually think they're very beautiful to look at, and I like to call them dinosaurs because they look like they've been around forever. But if you're afraid of alligators, just don't walk your little dog Fluffy down by the water and you should be okay. All right. Moving on to another positive location. Beaufort, even though it's quiet and it's quaint and it's not congested, it is very close to some other areas that are a little bit more congested. But if you want to go visit areas like Savannah and Hilton Head and Bluffton and Charleston, you're literally just a hop, skip, and a jump from some of these major southern tourist destinations. So it's really a great crossroads if you want to experience some of those other tourist destinations. So it's a very convenient location to get out and explore some of the best that the Southeast has to offer. All right, another negative, hurricanes. Yes, there are hurricanes in the Southeast. It doesn't matter if you live in Florida or South Carolina or anywhere on the Southeast coast, Georgia. You are going to have the risk of having hurricanes come through and you may have to evacuate. So hurricanes, everywhere has their thing. So if you live on the West Coast, you've got earthquakes and wildfires and mudslides and all these other things to deal with. If you're in the Midwest, you've got tornadoes to deal with. And if you live on the Southeast coast, yes, you have hurricanes to contend with. It's something that I've lived with for the past 20 years, and so it's not a big deal to me. But you have to be aware that that is a factor here in the Southeast. So hurricanes is a negative. And I am going to include two more positives. The next one is Parris Island. Parris Island is where we train the U.S. Marines. It is an island that is kind of off limits to civilians, but it's where all the Marines do their basic training. And I think it's awesome because you get to see all these military personnel around town and you get to, thank them for their service. They are putting everything on the line for us. And it's really awesome that in Beaufort you get to see the Marines from Parris Island walking around town. And you also get to see some of the other military personnel from the air station. So having that close proximity to the military folks in town, I think is a huge positive to living in Beaufort. All right, and my number one pro to living in Beaufort is the ancient oak trees and the Spanish moss. And that's probably the most iconic thing in the South Carolina Lowcountry and in Beaufort. You have these amazing giant oak trees that are hundreds and hundreds of years old, and they're absolutely beautiful to look at and awe-inspiring, and they're draped in the Spanish moss, and to me that just exudes southern charm, and it absolutely is just oozing with history and character. And when I think of the Lowcountry in the South, I think of these ancient oak trees draped in Spanish moss. So that's my number one pro to living in Beaufort, South Carolina, is these amazing oak trees and Spanish moss. So I hope you have enjoyed learning some of the pros and the cons, the good and the bad of Beaufort, South Carolina. And if you would like to consider moving to Beaufort, South Carolina, or learning more about Beaufort, South Carolina, or South Carolina Lowcountry, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, or book a Zoom call, all in the description below, so I can help you find your Lowcountry lifestyle. Again, please, if you'd like to stay up to date with the latest market information in the South Carolina Lowcountry, be sure and like our channel, subscribe, tap that bell for notifications so you'll be the first to know about the current market here. Again, my name is David Simcox, host of Lowcountry Lifestyles and a local realtor, and I really appreciate you staying till the end of this video. Have a wonderful day.